Jump. Jump, Amy Samet.
Mr. Toastmaster, my fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. I moved to Austin in the summer of 1980 during a record heat wave with no job, no car, and no money. I was 22, I had a sense of adventure, and I was absolutely sure that everything was going to turn out just fine. I did have a place to live lined up. I assumed it would have furniture and air conditioning. But when I got here, it turned out I was wrong about the furniture and the air conditioning. My first night in Austin, it was a miserable 101 degrees. So I opened the window of my bedroom with no bed in it, hoping for a breeze, and I heard a train. It got louder, 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 then so loud I thought it had derailed and it was coming straight at me. And that's when I learned that my little rent house was 100 feet from the railroad tracks. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I looked down and saw my first cockroach. It was as big as a hot dog bun. Apparently the universe had not gotten the memo that I was about to jump, and it was supposed to catch me. Just a few days later, I got a job, and that's where I met Gary. He was an older man. He was 28. He had looks, he had charm, and that was just the beginning. When he found out I didn't have any furniture, he made a few calls, and he borrowed a pickup truck, and he rounded up a table, a dresser, and a bed for me. We ate lunch together every day. I fell hopelessly in love with him. Perhaps the universe was going to catch me after all. On the 4th of July, he invited me to a picnic with his friends. The Gay Pride picnic sign at the entrance to City Park did not give me a clue. Meeting half a dozen of his gay friends who looked just like him did not give me a clue. Did I get a clue? Oh yeah, when he looked me straight in the eye and said, "Amy, I'm gay." I smiled and pretended that nothing had changed. And in a way, nothing had changed. I still loved Gary. Gary still loved me. But I was still in love with Gary, and Gary would never be in love with me. One Saturday morning, Gary called me. He said, "I need a favor. I went to Houston last night, I brought somebody home with me, and I forgot I had to work this morning. Could you entertain this guy?" I said, "Sure, send him over." He said, "Oh, there's one more thing. He doesn't speak English." The guy who showed up on my front lawn 10 minutes later was drop dead gorgeous. He had this whole exotic other side of the world, olive skin, jet black hair, flashing white teeth thing going on, and he was as fit as a wild animal. I couldn't breathe. Then I remembered he was gay and I was just going to be his babysitter, and I started breathing again. "I am Amy. My house is hot. Let's walk. I am Abraham. I am speaking some English, and I'm not deaf." We headed for the hike and bike trail. For the next 2 hours, we walked and talked about his favorite food, and the music he liked, and cars, and trees, and animals. Abraham was a really good sport about everything. At one point, he told a joke, and all of the humor was lost in translation. And we had a good laugh over how funny it wasn't. Finally, we sat down in the shade. Abraham said to me, "We should not be getting along." I said, "Why not? I'm from Iran. You are a Jew." "I just met you today, and I like everything about you a lot." And then he did the sweetest appreciate everything you've done. Well, that's what I thought he was saying, until the fingers of his other hand touched my wrist and continued up my arm, past the crook of my elbow, to my neck, and into my hair. And that's when I realized that Abraham wasn't gay. Thank you, universe. It turned out that 10 years earlier, back when Gary and Abraham were both in high school, Gary went to Iran as an exchange student, and he lived with Abraham and his family for a year. Then, years later, after they had become very good friends, Abraham wrote to Gary and said, I need to come to the United States. Would you be willing to sponsor me? And of course, Gary said, of course. When I think back to that time in my life, I know I made a lot of mistakes. It was nothing but a series of blunders and bad judgment calls. But still, when I think about 1980, I am nothing but proud that once upon a time, I was 22 and fearless, and I had an open mind and an open heart. I'm proud, and I am grateful for the one true thing I learned that summer. It may not happen when you think it will, or how you think it will, but if you jump, the universe will catch you.
We could have 1 minute of silence, please.